Full narration script, legend, fact titles highlighted in green, CTA blocks highlighted in yellow. Andrew Beckett thanks his boss for believing in him, and then his whole world quietly falls apart. Philadelphia broke Hollywood's silence on AIDS and changed how audiences saw the disease forever. Today, you'll see 20 strange facts hidden in the casting, the courtroom, and the soundtrack. And stick around, because the final fact is something almost nobody talks about. So speed up with me, because the list starts now. Number 1, the shaved head. Tom Hanks did something that shocked fans before a single frame of dialogue was even spoken. He shaved his head completely bald for the role of Andrew Beckett, a man losing his fight against AIDS. This wasn't a costume department wig or a clever camera trick. Hanks physically altered his appearance, so the illness would read as real on screen, not performed. Audiences who knew him as the friendly everyman from Splash and Big were stunned to see him look so fragile and exposed. But here's the thing, that baldness became more than a physical detail. It became a symbol of total commitment, the kind that separates a good performance from an unforgettable one. Every time the camera lingered on his bare scalp, viewers were reminded that this wasn't make-believe. It was a man disappearing into someone else's suffering. The choice paid off in ways nobody could have predicted at the time. Number 2, Denzel Washington's casting Joe Miller. The lawyer who takes Andrew Beckett's case almost looked completely different on screen. Before Denzel Washington ever read a line, director Jonathan Demme reportedly considered comedic stars Bill Murray and Robin Williams for the role. Both men were massively popular in the early 90s and known for blending humor with unexpected depth. But Demme had wanted to work with Washington for years, and when the actor showed interest, the decision came together fast. Now check this out. Washington was already respected for dramatic work in Glory and Malcolm X, and that gravity is exactly what grounded the film's second half. Imagine Philadelphia with a comedian carrying half its courtroom scenes instead. The tone, the pacing, even the emotional weight of the verdict might have landed completely differently. Washington's casting wasn't just a good choice. It may have saved the movie's entire identity. If you are enjoying this, take 2 seconds and leave a like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. That support really motivates my work and helps a lot with bringing more content. Number 3, chronological filming. Most movies get filmed in a jumbled order, chasing whatever location or actor happens to be available that week. Philadelphia broke that pattern entirely. Director Jonathan Demme insisted the cast perform every scene in the exact sequence the story actually unfolds. That meant Tom Hanks couldn't fake his way between a healthy scene and a sick one out of order. Instead, his physical decline had to happen for real, week by week, exactly as the audience would eventually watch it. Here's where it gets interesting. This also changed how his co-stars reacted to him. Denzel Washington wasn't acting opposite a man pretending to get sicker. He was reacting to a colleague who genuinely looked more depleted every single day. Chronological filming takes far more scheduling and money than the industry norm. Demme spent both anyway, and the result is a performance that feels less like acting and more like documentation. Number 4, Pauletta Washington's song Denzel. Washington wasn't the only member of his family who left a mark on this film. His wife, Pauletta Washington, lent her voice to a haunting track on the soundtrack called It's in Your Eyes. She's a trained performer in her own right, with a career stretching well beyond being married to a movie star. Her vocals appeared during some of the film's quietest, heaviest moments, the kind of scenes where dialogue would feel like too much. But wait, there's more to it than just a nice melody. The song threads themes of love, hope, and quiet understanding straight through the emotional core of the story, giving the audience a moment to simply feel instead of process plot. Few casual viewers realize the connection between the actor on screen and the woman singing behind the scenes. It's a small detail, but it adds a layer of intimacy that most soundtracks never achieve. Number 5, HIV-positive extras were hired. Jonathan Demme wanted Philadelphia to feel undeniably real, so he made a decision that was bold even by today's standards. Working with a Philadelphia-based organization called Action AIDS, the production brought in roughly 50 extras who were themselves living with HIV. These weren't actors reciting lines about illness, they were people who understood it firsthand. Many appeared in hospital scenes and community gatherings scattered throughout the film. Now, for the wild part, in the early 90s, fear and stigma around HIV were still enormous, and casting decisions like this carried real professional risk for everyone involved. Demme pushed forward anyway, believing visibility mattered more than caution. Their presence on screen added a texture no script could manufacture. Faces that had lived exactly what the story was portraying. This single choice quietly turned a Hollywood drama into something closer to a documented piece of history. Number 6. Studio trouble. Before a single ticket ever sold, Philadelphia nearly collapsed for reasons that had nothing to do with its subject matter. Orion Pictures, the studio originally attached to the project, went bankrupt while the film was still in production. Bankruptcy meant Orion could no longer cover its debts or keep operating, leaving the entire project in limbo. But here's the thing. The cast and crew had already poured months of work into scenes exploring AIDS and workplace discrimination, and none of it was guaranteed to reach an audience. TriStar Pictures, part of Columbia, eventually stepped in and rescued the production from total collapse. Without that last-minute deal, Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington's performances might have simply vanished into an unfinished vault somewhere. It's a reminder that even culturally important films can hinge entirely on studio finances rather than artistic merit. Number 7. Tom Hanks's transformation. Beyond shaving his head, Tom Hanks pushed his body through a dramatic physical change to play a man wasting away from AIDS. He dropped close to 30 pounds during production, a process that required strict and disciplined dieting under supervision. That weight loss wasn't cosmetic. It was designed to visibly track Andrew Beckett's declining health scene by scene. Hanks also studied how people living with the illness actually moved and spoke, refusing to rely on generic assumptions about sickness. Here's where it gets interesting. Audiences at the time were genuinely shocked by how thin and depleted he appeared compared to his familiar on-screen persona. That transformation became a defining talking point around the film's release and a major factor in his eventual Oscar win. Few actors were willing to alter their bodies this dramatically for a single role back then. Hanks's commitment set a new bar for what dramatic transformation could look like in mainstream cinema. Number 8. An original comedic lead was considered Jonathan Demme's first instinct for Joe Miller wasn't a dramatic powerhouse at all. It was comedy. Early in development, he considered casting a well-known comedic actor to make the film's heavy subject matter feel more approachable for mainstream audiences. Names like Bill Murray and Robin Williams came up again, this time specifically as a strategy to soften the story's emotional weight. Demme's theory was that humor could help viewers stay engaged with a topic many studios still considered box office poison. But wait, there's more. Once Denzel Washington entered the picture, that entire plan changed direction. The character shifted from a potential comic anchor into a serious, grounded presence, carrying real dramatic weight. What started as a strategy to lighten the film ended up doing the opposite, deepening it. It's proof that sometimes the safest creative instinct isn't the one that makes a film timeless. Before we keep going, subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment telling me which movie or show you want me to cover next with strange behind-the-scenes facts. I read every single one. Number 9. The film was based on a real-life story. Philadelphia's courtroom drama wasn't invented from scratch. It drew directly from the real experience of Jeffrey Bowers, a New York lawyer fired from his firm in the 1980s after his employers learned he had AIDS. Bowers believed the termination was discriminatory and took his former firm to court, a case that became a quiet landmark at the time. Screenwriters used that real lawsuit as the emotional backbone for Andrew Beckett's story, even as they fictionalized specific details and characters. Now check this out. This wasn't just inspiration for drama's sake. It was an attempt to put a human face on discrimination that was happening in real workplaces across the country. For viewers living through the AIDS crisis, the film wasn't abstract fiction. It mirrored battles people were actually fighting. That real foundation is part of why the story carried so much weight when it hit theaters. Fiction gave the case a voice, but reality gave it its power. Number 10. The costume party. There's a scene where Andrew and his partner Miguel both appeared dressed in United States military uniforms. And that costume choice wasn't random. When the film was shot, openly gay and lesbian people were barred from serving in the American Armed Forces. Then candidate Bill Clinton had promised reform during his campaign, and the uniforms quietly nod to that unresolved tension. Just months after the film's release in December of 1993, Clinton signed the policy known as Don't Ask, "Don't Tell" into law. That compromise let gay and lesbian service members serve, but only if they hid their identity, and it remained in place until 2011. Here's where it gets interesting. The film used a simple wardrobe choice to comment on a national debate still unfolding in real time. It's the kind of detail that rewards a second viewing. Easy to miss the first time through. Small choices like this show how deliberately layered the film's symbolism really was. Number 11. Ron Vawter's casting. One of the senior law partners who fires Andrew Beckett was played by an actor named Ron Vawter, and his casting carried weight far beyond the script. Vawter was HIV positive in real life, at a moment when fear and stigma around the virus were at their peak. When Jonathan Demme wanted to cast him, TriStar Pictures reportedly pushed back hard, worried that Vawter's health status made him uninsurable for the production. But here's the thing, Demme refused to back down, convinced that Vawter's presence would bring an authenticity no other casting choice could replicate. He fought the studio and won, and Vawter took the role. His performance quietly proved that an actor living with HIV could still anchor a major Hollywood production. It was a small crack in a much larger wall of industry prejudice, and it mattered more than most viewers ever realized. Number 12. A real HIV aid office was used. When Andrew Beckett receives treatment on screen, that scene wasn't staged inside a studio set. The production filmed it inside the genuine offices of Action AIDS, a real support organization based in Philadelphia that assisted people living with HIV and AIDS. Rather than building an artificial clinic, the crew brought cameras into a space where real people had actually sought real help. Now for the wild part, this choice did more than boost visual authenticity. It quietly honored an ongoing crisis happening just outside the frame while cameras rolled. Jonathan Demme's decision drew extra public attention to Action AIDS and the kind of support work groups like it were doing nationwide. For the actors involved, performing inside a genuinely emotional space added weight no soundstage could fake. It's one more example of how deeply this film blurred the line between fiction and documented reality. Quick reminder to subscribe if you are enjoying these revelations. And tell me in the comments, do you know any strange fact about this movie that I didn't mention? Let's build the list together. Number 13. Suellen Kaler's story. Among the extras hired to appear in the film's background scenes was a woman named Suellen Kaler, who was living with HIV at the time of filming. For her, standing in front of the camera became something far bigger than an ordinary day of work. Watching Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington bring this story to life gave her a renewed sense of hope and purpose. But here's the thing. That experience pushed her towards something personal. She later began writing about her own life with HIV, hoping to share it more widely. She reportedly planned to send her writing directly to Hanks, the actor she had once shared a set with. Her goal wasn't fame, it was making sure other people living with the same diagnosis felt less alone. It's a quiet reminder that even background roles in major films can spark something that outlasts the movie itself. Sometimes the most lasting impact of a production happens far away from the spotlight. Number 14. Real home videos. There's a moment in the film showing Andrew Beckett as a child. Footage many viewers assumed was scripted and staged specifically for the movie. It wasn't. Those childhood clips are actual home videos from Tom Hanks's real early life. Filmmakers chose to use genuine footage instead of hiring child actors or staging a recreation, betting that authenticity would land harder emotionally. Here's where it gets interesting. By showing the real young Tom Hanks, the production blurred the boundary between the actor and the character he was portraying. Audiences weren't just watching Andrew Beckett's imagined past, they were glimpsing a sliver of Hanks's actual childhood. That choice deepened the emotional connection between viewer and character in a way most flashback sequences never manage. It's a subtle trick, but one that turned a simple flashback into something genuinely personal. Number 15. Mary Steenburgen's improvised line. Mary Steenburgen played Belinda Conine, the opposing lawyer arguing against Andrew Beckett in court, and one of her most human moments wasn't scripted at all. In a scene where her character admits she actually hates the case she's arguing, that confession was pure improvisation. Steenburgen reportedly added the line right after shooting an intense mirror scene, where she had to mentally prepare to argue against a dying man fighting for basic justice. But wait, there's more. Director Jonathan Demme liked the moment so much, he kept it in the final cut. That small, unscripted admission humanized a character who otherwise stood entirely on the wrong side of the story. It reminded audiences that even opposing counsel can feel the moral weight of a case they're paid to win. Sometimes the most memorable lines in a film were never written down at all. Number 16. The courtroom was real. Many of the film's most pivotal scenes take place inside a courtroom, and viewers might assume it was a constructed set built specifically for filming. It wasn't. The city of Philadelphia granted the production special permission to film inside an actual, functioning courtroom. Every detail, the judge's bench, the seating, even the way voices echoed through the room, was completely authentic rather than manufactured for cameras. Now check this out. This decision helped the actors too. Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington never had to imagine what the space felt like. They were simply standing in it. That real atmosphere translated directly into performances that felt grounded rather than theatrical. Filming somewhere so genuine reinforced the film's larger message, that these struggles weren't fictional constructs, but reflections of real battles people actually fought. Sometimes the most powerful special effect a film can use is simply telling the truth about its setting. Number 17. The stories shared were real. The extras living with HIV who appeared throughout Philadelphia weren't just filling background space, they were carrying real lived experience onto set every day. Many had faced mistreatment or outright fear from people around them simply because of their diagnosis. On set, though, something different happened. They found each other, swapped stories, and offered support most of them rarely received anywhere else. Here's where it gets interesting. For many of these extras, appearing in the film wasn't really acting at all. It was an opportunity to be seen as fully human rather than as a diagnosis. Jonathan Demme's insistence on hiring real people rather than trained performers gave the film a truthfulness no script alone could fabricate. Even in minor background roles, their presence carried enormous emotional weight. It's proof that sometimes the most important performances in a movie never get a single line of dialogue. Number 18. The Almost Love Story. Early cuts of Philadelphia reportedly included more tender moments between Andrew Beckett and his partner Miguel Alvarez, played by Antonio Banderas. Those scenes leaned further into their relationship as a genuine, loving partnership rather than a background detail. But studio executives grew nervous, worried mainstream 1990s audiences weren't ready to watch two men in an openly intimate relationship on a major theatrical release. Because of that hesitation, several of those scenes reportedly ended up cut from the final version. Now for the wild part, despite the trims, the filmmakers still fought to keep the emotional core of that relationship intact throughout the story. It's a small window into how much social pressure shaped what studios were willing to show audiences at the time. Looking back, that caution feels like a missed opportunity rather than a necessary compromise. It's also a reminder of exactly how far mainstream representation has moved since then, almost at the end. And the best is still coming. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this video is reaching. Number 19. Hanks's double win. Tom Hanks's performance in Philadelphia earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1994. But that alone wasn't the historic part. The very next year, he won Best Actor again for Forrest Gump, making him only the second actor in history to win back-to-back in that category. Before Philadelphia, Hanks was best known for lighter comedic roles in films like Big and Splash. Here's the thing, this single dramatic performance completely reshaped how the industry viewed him as a performer. It proved he could carry devastating emotional weight just as convincingly as he carried a laugh line. That shift opened the door to the dramatic roles that would define much of his later career. The double win placed him among a very small group of actors ever to achieve that feat. Philadelphia wasn't just the film that earned him an Oscar. It was the film that changed what people expected from him entirely. Number 20. The tragedy nobody talks about. For years, a chilling claim circulated online about the 50-plus HIV-positive extras hired for this film, that 43 of them died within a single year of filming Wrapping. It sounds almost too devastating to be true, and in its exact form, it isn't. Writer Brian Cronin investigated the claim closely for his site debunking entertainment urban legends, cross-referencing reporting from the New York Times to separate fact from exaggeration. What he found was still heartbreaking, just less specific than the viral version. Roughly 40 of those extras did pass away, but the deaths unfolded gradually over the following years, rather than in one single devastating year. One of them was Ron Vawter himself, the actor who played senior partner Bob Seidman, and whose own casting story you heard earlier in this video. A 1995 New York Times piece by writer Clifford Rothman confirmed that many extras were indeed living with advanced AIDS during filming, and that a significant number died afterward. This fact reframes everything else on this list. Philadelphia wasn't just a movie about a crisis. It was filmed in the middle of one, with real lives quietly ending in the years right after the cameras stopped rolling. See you in the next video.